Hi, my name's Craig. This is one of my first sort of comparison or technical videos. Drones and cinematography is my hobby. These are two of my drones. I've had the Spark for about 3 years now, and recently got the Mavic Mini probably about 6 months ago. They're great little drones. The Spark only has a 2-axis gimbal, the forward pitch and sideways pitch. The Mavic Mini has the 3-axis gimbal, forward pitch, sideways pitch, and also yaw, and a bit of sideways movement, but a lateral movement. It compensates for that. So what I want to talk about today is flying around a point of interest. To do that, let me move these out of the way. Just give myself a little bit more space here. I'm going to do this by diagram. If you just bear with me, hopefully my drawing skills are up to scratch. But I want to explain the concept of flying around a point of interest. First thing is we have our point of interest, and we have our drone with the camera on front. Ideally the camera is pointing and the drone is pointing at the point of interest. And what we want to do is move around that point of interest to the point where the drone is now in a new location and is essentially flown around that point of interest, keeping it in focus, keeping an equal distance apart, and being nice and steady and smooth without too much jittering. In order to do that, we have to make sure that the drone moves sideways and at the same time rotates in the opposite direction while it's traveling. And that's quite simply done with the sticks. So while we're moving sideways, we're also going to do a compensating yaw. So we'll rotate and we'll keep a balance between the two to make sure we have a nice consistent travel around that single point of interest. Now on the Spark it's fairly simple because it doesn't have any yaw movement or any lateral compensation. It's only a 2-axis gimbal. So at all times the drone's camera is in the same orientation as the actual drone. That makes flying around a point of interest with the Spark fairly easy, and over the last 4 years I got used to the Spark. Then I got the Mavic Mini and realized that this is not so easy anymore. Let me explain why. We still have our point of interest. We have our drone. It's pointing at our point of interest, and we want to maintain that as consistently and smoothly as possible. However, what happens with the Mavic Mini, as soon as we start flying sideways or start to yaw, the camera will delay that yaw movement or that sideways movement to make sure we have a cinematic experience, so that the point of interest is not jittering and moving around quickly. So we end up with a situation where the camera is pointing at the point of interest, but the drone essentially is not. What's effectively happened is we started to move around our point of interest and we haven't started to rotate the drone because the gimbal has taken care of that for us. So what's actually happening is the camera's angle of travel, lateral movement, is like that. Sorry, the drone and the camera is like that. And it's this difference between the two that causes the problem. Because what happens over a period of time is we start to compensate for the camera versus drone angle because we start to see a bit of drift. And remember, when we're flying around a point of interest, looking through the phone on the actual remote, we're looking at the camera's perspective, not the drone's perspective. But we're not controlling the camera, we're controlling the drone. And that's why we have this problem. So it ends up where we have the camera pointing at the point of interest, the drone not, but the drone also moving a lot further away. The distance between these two is a lot bigger than that distance there. And this is the problem I found. So to compensate for that, With the Mavic Mini, we only have to go sideways with a bit of yaw, but with the Mavic Mini now, because the gimbal has got that third axis, we also have to start to feather a bit forward and it compensate for that movement away from the actual point of interest. So let me show you that in a bit of video. So here I'm flying with a local basketball court around the old basketball net. This is with the Spark. It's fairly consistent and it's easy enough to keep the distance the same from the drone to the actual basketball net. With the Mini it gets a little bit more challenging. You can see I accelerate every now and then and start to drift further and further away from the actual basketball net, and it's not consistent. My speed is changing. It's a little bit more challenging. Right, so now you understand it, and this is the little challenge I had, and potentially I think what has happened is I've been spoilt by the simplicity of the DJI Spark, and its simple gimbal, and now I have to relearn some of the stuff I've learned because the Mavic Mini is a bit more advanced and has that third axis on the gimbal. So it's just a relearning exercise. You can still get good steady flight, obviously. I need to practice a lot more. But now that you're aware of it, if you got used to that one, you're going to find the same things here. Now hopefully you know. Thank you for watching my video, and we'll see you again.